Hi, welcome everyone. We are at 2:01 and we want to take a moment to say welcome and thank you for taking time out of your busy day today to join myself and Diana to talk about a very important topic, which is really caring for a loved one with Alzheimer's while you're at home or dementia during this time. Sometimes caring for ourselves during this time can be very difficult. So we really want to help address that issue with our families and our caregivers who are at home, and for anyone that helps take care of someone, whether full-time or part-time. So with that, we will get started. Christy, if you will hit the next slide for us, please, ma'am. And the next one. So I'm Crystal Roberts, National Director of Resident Enrichment for MBK, and it is my pleasure to be here today to help you in this journey with taking care of your loved ones with dementia and Alzheimer's. So I hope today, between myself and Diana, you will get a few tips or hopefully tidbits of information of things that can help you survive every day.
And I'm Diana Engel, and I'm the Regional Director of Resident Enrichment for MBK Senior Living, and we are so happy that you joined us today. So next slide, please, Christy. Today, we're going to talk to you about a proactive approach to meeting needs of people with dementia when you're caregiving. And, you know, people who have dementia can feel and respond to stress just like anyone else, but they often struggle to communicate directly what's bothering them or why they're upset. And sometimes what we experience is what we call a communication of stress or needs that aren't being met when it's difficult to communicate. And those communications can sometimes come in the form of what we typically call behaviors. So behavior, put another way, we like to think of as really more a communication of an unmet need or an underlying feeling. And, you know, it could be anything from fatigue to loneliness to hunger or fear. And during this time of COVID-19 and mandated social distancing, we're all experiencing major disruptions to our routine, and people who are living with dementia experience disruption and don't like change any more than anybody else. And sometimes the changes to their routine can result in these behavioral communications. So today we want to talk to you about meeting some needs, making sure that you meet specific needs proactively throughout the day, which will reduce anxiety for those with dementia and the resulting behavior issues that we can see that comes from that anxiety or unmet need, and can improve their overall health and well-being. So, next slide.
But first, before we can talk about your loved one's need that you're taking care of with dementia and Alzheimer's, we have to talk about you as the caregiver. Whether you provide part-time care, full-time care, live in with someone, or take care of someone on occasion, or supporting them from a distance, it's critical that first and foremost, you take care of yourself first. No one has ever flown on an airline where the flight attendant has said to you, if we crash by chance, go ahead and put everyone's mask on and put your oxygen mask on last. They always say, if an emergency, put your mask on and assist those that need assistance. If you're not in the right space, if you're not well balanced, you can't take care of someone else in the right way. So it's critical for your own health that you understand the importance of self-care. Most people who are caregivers by nature or caregivers by trade or caregivers by what we take care of our loved ones every day, we have a tendency to not do self-care for ourselves. It's critical. If you do nothing but 10 minutes of self-care a day, you have to take the time out to put yourself first. It's the same as we've always said, you know, you can't take care of anyone else if you're falling apart. And unfortunately, caregivers who take care of someone with Alzheimer's and dementia, believe it or not, are what we call the silent patient in our industry. They neglect their health. They don't go to the doctor. They don't out-seek help. They lose all their social connections, and they have no support system. So before we can take care of anyone in your household, we have to take care of you, which means good balance. You have to have sleep, hydration, getting outside, exercise, having a social connection of people you can talk to, or just what I call ugly cry with on the phone, because taking care of someone at home with this disease process is not an easy thing to do. It's okay to give yourself permission to not be perfect. It's okay to have a bad day, and it's okay to know that all you can do is do your best, but before you do that, you have to take care of yourself. You need to find those things that make you feel good, whether that's sneaking away for a hot shower or eating a whole Snickers bar in a closet. I know that sounds crazy, but when you're an at-home caregiver, you take those moments wherever you can get them. So once again, before you can take care of someone, you have to put yourself first. Make the doctor's appointment. And the thing I can tell you the most, in dealing with 4 grandparents who've passed away from this disease process and my family who helped care for our loved ones, the most important thing I can tell you is you have to ask for help when you need it. Do not see it as failure to ask for help. It takes a village to take care of everyone, including you. So making sure that, 1, you are happy and healthy, you're doing things for yourself, you're staying connected to your family and friends. You're calling someone and saying, I need a break today, whether it's just 10 minutes to take a walk around the block. And remember that your routine is critical too. So the more routine you are with taking that morning walk, making sure you take a nap mid-afternoon if you're exhausted, the better it will be for your overall mental health, which will help sustain you. And not to mention, if you physically fall apart because you're not exercising and neglecting yourself, you can't take care of someone if you're sick in the hospital and you can't provide the care. So we implore you, please, to reach out for help, talk to your doctor, reach out to friends, and talk to your family. And sometimes you just need to say, hey, I need a break every Saturday for 3 hours so I can get out and just go ride my bike and not be bothered by anyone. It's okay sometimes to take time for yourself. Remember, we're only asking for 10 minutes of self-care a day. It's a great way to get started. But if you fall apart, everything in the house falls apart. So you have to be number 1. Christy, next.
So as we go through the tips and pointers from today, what we would really like for you to take away from it is this concept that as you apply the information, you map out and stick to a rock solid routine as much as you can. And I'll explain a little bit why. Establishing a routine is one of the best ways to reduce anxiety for folks. And if you look at it a different way, when someone's routine is disrupted, it can be stressful for them. If you've seen the TV show The Big Bang Theory, the character Sheldon is very attached to his spot on the couch and gets really upset if somebody else is in his spot. And in fact, on some level, all of us form quick attachments to our chair or our side of the bed or our parking space. And there's a natural feeling of irritation or even anxiety when routines get broken. In fact, those of us who work in senior living have seen some pretty heated debates over a chair at bingo. And this is because it's disruptive to people, and it makes people, if you flip it the other way, feel safe to have a predictable routine that they can fall into. And you're sort of flying in the face of their feeling of safety when you take away their routine. So while people with dementia have trouble remembering certain specific short-term details, they can remember routines. It's almost as if the body has a kind of muscle memory for routine. And when you develop a rhythm to each day where you're following the same flow of pattern. Now, we don't recommend getting too attached to the times on your schedule because, as you know, being a caregiver for someone with dementia, you have to be flexible and be ready for things to be very different than how you plan them out. So while maintaining that flexibility as much as you can, implementing a timed daily routine where you're doing the same things at the same time every day will go a long way towards creating a sense of safety and security for the person with dementia. So we're going to recommend that you create a daily schedule, you establish some routines and rituals to get through the day, and that you limit the other controllable changes. So instead of having the instinct to sort of shake things up to make it more interesting, resist that and avoid change as you can, because there's enough of it going on naturally in the environment. So with that,
so we've talked about taking care of yourself first, and we've talked about the importance of that routine and establishing that schedule throughout the day. So let's talk about some things that can actually do us some harm when it comes to taking care of someone, and things that can cause us what I call pitfalls throughout the day. The first is the environment. There are things that we should actually avoid to cause more frustration for people. One is the first, you guys hear it every day, and it's probably causing you some stress and strife. I hear a lot of people are on what they call a news diet right now. Hearing all this negativity on a regular basis can really erode at your mental health. But when you have confusion on top of it, or maybe PTSD from previous experiences in your life of things that have happened, hearing that, 80,000 people have died in one day, or that this country's going to war with that country, or hearing, people scream at each other politically on the TV, all of this arguing and chaos, it's really not healthy for someone with dementia and Alzheimer's. It can really trigger them. It could cause them to be overreactionary. They could become aggressive. They could become very withdrawn and start to cry and be depressed. So these are things that we want to keep away that could be possible triggers. I call it the Jerry Springer feeling. If you've ever watched a Jerry Springer episode and everyone's yelling and screaming at you, the sensory overload sometimes is so much you can't take it all in. So you have to change the channel really quick. So think about the environment and always use your senses. What are you hearing when you walk into your house or where you're at? Is it calming? Are the news stations on? Is the TV so loud you can't even hear the conversation with the person? Is there too much clutter in the environment? For any of you that have been to a mall on Christmas Eve, it is crazy and crowded, and you get that sense of anxiety and frustration when you walk in the doors. It's just that feeling that you get. So is the environment clutter-free? Is it simple? Sometimes simple is easy and it's the best. We shouldn't overcomplicate some things. Making sure the stimulation is okay. Like I said, you don't want the radio on and the TV on and you're yelling at the cat down the hallway at the same time. That's too much sensory overload for anyone, especially someone whose perception of senses is changing with this disease process. And second is changing. I know right now a lot of us are stuck at home and we get bored and we're thinking we're going to reorganize that closet and paint this wall and change the furniture. I encourage you not to do those things right now while you're taking care of someone at home. When you're making multiple changes to the environment, i.e. moving the couch and the chair or the coffee pot, you create massive disruption in this routine for this dementia or Alzheimer's person, and they cannot function. So as much as you would like to change things up, keep it very simple, like Diana said. Keep to a routine and keep the environment very calm without a lot of changes. Next slide, Christy. So what do we want to do in the environment? What are the things we say, yes, we want to do? One is keep the environment calm. So use your senses when you walk into a room. What do you hear? What do you smell? What do you see? And how does it make you feel? So is it calming? Is it relaxing? Do we have soft music on? Do we have the TV at a decent level that's easy for your loved one to hear? When you think about it too, we're home a lot right now, which means we're all on top of each other and we're very concerned about COVID-19. So part of the environment for the positives right now is keeping it clean. You have to disinfect multiple touch areas on a regular basis. It's better to be safe than sorry. And you and I both know people with dementia sometimes don't always have the best hand hygiene. So it's critical that we make sure that we keep the areas clean. Some other things in the environment is loaded up with things people love. Birds, bird watching, bird feeders, butterfly gardens outside the window. A actual garden in the backyard to go and look in. Or maybe you're doing some herb gardens in the house for someone to take care of. Making sure that you have the right lighting. As we all age, for anyone over the age of 40 plus, you're already realizing your eyes don't work the same anymore. So it's critical that we have enough light that someone can actually see everything in the environment. And also understanding that colors can evoke feelings. And there's also understanding that there are certain colors that as we age, we don't see that well. So we want to take all that into account when we're in our environment. Along with making sure, like I said earlier, what does it smell like? Do you have things that cue your loved one throughout the day? My favorite is in the morning, a fresh pot of coffee and birds chirping on a CD player. it signifies to someone that it's morning time. Baking bread, baking cookies. If you're famous for baking cinnamon rolls and you know that makes your mom or dad feel really happy, bake those cinnamon rolls every day and enjoy that smell. But it's setting the stage of something that is calming and familiar to help create an environment, both in the routine and the physical environment for itself, to be relaxing and easy for you and your loved one to exist in. So you want it to feel good and for it to make you feel good. Next, Christy.
This next topic of sleep is so important. And while I think about launching into this topic, I realize what a huge challenge this is for caregivers and for your loved ones who have dementia. As dementia progresses and the brain changes, people can reach a stage where they're sort of stuck in permanent jet lag, is what it seems like. And it's so challenging when people don't sleep well at night. And of course, when your loved one doesn't sleep well at night, then you don't sleep well at night. So you know the effects of sleep debt. In addition to making you feel groggy and cranky, your brain regenerates at night. It forms connections again and rehabilitates the communication at the synapses. And it's so necessary for restorative brain function to get good sleep. There are a few things that you can do, even for folks who have dementia and who seem to be stuck in semi-permanent jet lag. So we wanted to walk through some recommendations. The first one is, as much as you can, and of course, weather permitting, you get outside in the morning for a half an hour of sunlight every day. And you can do that by taking your morning walk, or just spending time outside in the yard, in the garden, going for picnics. Studies have shown that people who take a half an hour to an hour of sunlight every morning can reset their circadian rhythms and sleep better at night. It's a recommended way to actually get through jet lag. If you've traveled abroad and or somewhere outside of your time zone and you're jet lagged, this is a recommended way to get over that. And it can help people to sleep better at night. The other recommendation that we provide to all our caregivers, and we suggest to you, is that when you look at incontinence care at night, really, we have an instinct to make sure that things are cleanly and that skin integrity is good, and that's all very important. But you want to make sure that you're really recognizing the significance and value of sleep, perhaps most of all, because of its importance and its impact on well-being, on mood, on behavior. So you want to create incontinence care at night that's really based on need and not wake people up needlessly. So if you can get the best incontinence products you can and use those and choose not to wake people up unless you need to, that's highly recommended. You can also employ various sleep rituals, make sure that at the same time every night, as I had mentioned before about routine, you dim the lights, turn off whatever stimulating music or TV is on, and maybe switch it to instrumental only, very soft background music. If you have, and your loved one has enjoyed evening rituals such as prayer, saying a blessing, counting blessings, talking about fun things that have happened through the day. If you do that every single night and set up those rituals, that can help ease people into that body memory of, oh yeah, this is when we're slowing down and this is the time that we get ready to go to sleep. There are recorded meditations on various websites. I happen to use Insight Timer. There are a lot of short 5, 6, 7 minute little sleep meditations. So you can put earphones on for your loved one and go through a nighttime meditation, and that will help with sleep too. And one other thing to say about sleep is sometimes during the day, people who have dementia or Alzheimer's are inclined to take a cat nap. And my stance on this has been that go ahead and let that happen. Let sleep happen when it happens. It's kind of like when you're caring for kids and you think, well, maybe I should keep my toddler up through her nap. Maybe that'll help her sleep at night. And I know with my toddler, keeping her up for her nap did nothing more than ruin our evening. It's pretty much the same for older adults with Alzheimer's or dementia. If they're inclined to nod off during the day, it's a good idea to just let them do that. And maybe, like the advice we give new parents, you should nap at that time too. It's a suggestion. Next slide.
All right, our next tip is exercise. This is the dirty word no one likes, let's be honest. We all know it's good for us, but let's talk about why it's good for us really quick. So once again, if I could say to you, I could give you something that's going to decrease your depression, decrease your anxiety, help you sleep better, make you happier and healthier, you'd say, give me that pill right now. Well, that pill is exercise. It is critical as we age that we have to continue to move our bodies. I had shared before the meeting had started that most people don't know, but your muscle strength declines 15% per decade after the age of 50, and it declines 30% per decade after the age of 70. So our job is to keep our bodies moving and to keep active. We all know that one, exercising releases great endorphins that make you feel good. And that's where you see the anti-anxiety effect there. Two, getting out and exercising is also good for your cardiovascular system. And believe it or not, doctors are now writing actual prescriptions to patients with anxiety and depression. And considering the times that we're living in right now, there are a lot of people suffering from this. So this once again applies to you as well as your loved one. Is that really getting out in nature and really just being in the moment of being out in the world and appreciating where your place is in nature has a great way to calm you down and relax you. It's a great anti-anxiety on its own. So if your loved one suffers a lot from depression and anxiety, even aggression, getting out to exercise and to walk is actually really good for someone to do. First and foremost, good exercise will help decrease the risk of falls. And as we know, aging, sometimes falls happen. During this COVID-19 lockdown, shutdown, whatever we want to call it in the world right now, falls for seniors have increased 20%. So it is critical just for the overall health and safety of someone is to get them moving and out walking and doing something that's good for the body. And it doesn't have to be walking. I was saying earlier, the two top most favorite physical fitness activities for people over the age of 65 are walking and gardening, and both have great benefits. But there's also other things you can do. There's great benefits to yoga, and there are phenomenal resources online for all of these free things for you to be able to try. If you go to YouTube and just research chair yoga, you know, I hear families say all the time, my mom can't do yoga. Her mobility in her legs is not good. Great. We have chair yoga you can use. If you just research chair yoga alone, you'd find 180,000 videos for free to watch. And before you do an exercise routine, I will caution you to please check with your doctor first before you get started. And remember, go slow as you start out. If you've been someone who's not been exercising for quite a while, and it's very common when you're at home caregiver, or maybe mom and dad haven't been exercising for a while, start slow, a 5-minute walk to the end of the driveway. You know, making sure that you're giving them a soup can to do a couple bicep curls with. It sounds crazy, but it's a little bit of resistant weight. You can also check into different things like Silver Sneakers, which has free classes online for you to actually use. But when you're doing exercise, especially with someone with dementia and Alzheimer's, you want to make it fun. First of all, I think with anyone in exercise, you want to make it fun. But think about this. If you just did a daily walk with your loved one, maybe you could do a strolling karaoke where you sing your favorite songs, pull it up on your iPhone and sing the favorite song that you and mom love so much. Or maybe you can call the grandkids on the phone and sing with the grandkids as you're taking a walk around the block. You can also do some fun games like I Spy. Something that's actually good for your loved one is coming up with a list of items. And as you walk, say, let's find a cat. It's great cognitive, and it's also great for them to be able to be in that moment with you socializing. And we want to be able to sneak that exercise in, so we're doing it without realizing we're doing it at the same time, which is actually good for me too. I should do these. The next is bring the dog. Some people walk their cats on a leash. Bring your animal with you. That way there's a purpose for the walk. It's not, mom, you need to walk or exercise. We have to take, Kelly out for her walk. The dog needs her walk. We have to do this for her. And last but not least, I always want to share this story because once again, like I said earlier, my grandparents have suffered through this disease process and passed away. The favorite is what I call the cookie walk. So my grandfather, who had Alzheimer's and dementia, my grandmother really struggled to get him out of the house sometimes. But this man would do anything for an Oreo cookie. He was diabetic. So he knew that cookie was something he wanted. So we got very smart and we would hide Oreos along the way, around the block and down the street. So we would find them as we went. It was like the Oreo cookie hunt. But he was so happy to see that cookie. And every time he saw it, it's like he saw it for the first time. And to watch him eat that cookie and enjoy it was fabulous. But I would say, let's go a little further. I think I saw one more. And he's like, okay. So it's doing those sort of things that can make it fun. So I'm just going to throw this out here. If mom loves wine, why not stop a little couple tiny solo cups of wine along the walkway? And as you go, have a drink. I'm saying sometimes we have to motivate our seniors and ourselves to get moving however possible. So use your creativity, but realize exercise is absolutely critical for anxiety, depression. It will help you sleep better, and it's also going to help your loved one. So we go back to 1, exercising yourself, and 2, making sure you set up that routine like Diana talked about earlier, of maybe it's a special time where you and mom or you and dad take a morning walk with coffee and cookies every morning, and it just becomes your thing, something that you can celebrate and talk about years from now. So remember, exercise is critical. You got to find it, make it fun, and do some good stuff for your body, and it will also help your mind. Next, Christy.
Oh, this is one of my favorite topics. Oxytocin and healthy brain exercise. These are both things to employ every day to get good results from your loved one. There was actually a research study done. You can find it on researchgate.net. It's by Kosfeld and Associates. I can type it into the chat later if you're interested in it. What they did was they probably took some or graduate students in business school, I don't really know, but they divided people into 2 groups, a test group and a control group. And for the test group, they administered oxytocin and had those folks interact with people. And it was supposed to simulate sort of like a work setting. And I think the results were going to be generalized to work settings. And so they had them interact, and then they had the control group do the same thing, only without the oxytocin. And then they assessed at the end of the interactions for both groups the level of trust that the person who was either receiving or not receiving the oxytocin had for the other person that they had engaged with. And they found, of course, that people with oxytocin in their system are far more trusting than those without it. This is how we ended up with our partners and spouses, by the way, is that oxytocin that's cranking early on in the courtship facilitates bonding, connectedness, and trust. And this is so important when you're caregiving, even if you have known your loved one your whole life or most of your life, and you have an exceptional trusting bond. The Alzheimer's or the dementia can really interfere with that trust because of confusion, because they're not understanding what you're trying to do or that you're trying to be helpful. They're not tracking with what's going on the same way anymore sometimes. And you may even have found that your loved one is behaving like they don't trust you, which is, it's awful because, you are their most trusted person in their life and they can't perceive that. So doing these activities that we're suggesting and others, as you can think of them, that to produce, directly target boosting that oxytocin between the 2 of you is a scientific way to improve that trust bond, which will make those challenging caregiving moments, when you're trying to convince someone to shave or take a shower or take their medications, it can greatly improve that. So oxytocin is produced a lot of fun ways. Having music is known to produce lots of healthy brain chemicals, including serotonin and dopamine, particularly music that is familiar and tied to wonderful memories from the past for people. So if you can preload an iPod or an MP3 player with some really favorite music from the past, you can whip that out during stressful times when your loved one is angry or agitated or grumpy. And you know, the music will turn things around because it produces those anti-anxiety brain chemicals. There are live stream concerts that you can go on. The listening to music that is familiar from the past and being able to sing along is also utilizing the part of the brain that still works. So you know that with dementia, the short-term memory becomes compromised early on and is compromised throughout most progressive dementia causing illnesses. And however, the long-term memory is retained for quite some time in a lot of people. And so if they can engage in those long-term memories, which music is tied to, it's healthy for their brain. It will actually kind of create some connections that maybe seem to have been lost by being able to actually exercise the brain with the part of it that's still healthy and functions. So reminiscing is another wonderful way to do both oxytocin and dopamine and serotonin producing activity and exercise the brain by talking about things and that from the past that are still familiar. And you can use movies and old photo albums. You can have friends and family write letters that you can read, and maybe they can tell the old fun family stories, you know, about the time that little Diana cussed in front of all the elderly aunties when she was 3 years old, and that one makes everybody laugh. Do sing-alongs from the past, recite poems, verse, scripture. These are all ways to tap into that long-term memory and exercise the brain. And it really is true that laughter is the best medicine, because laughter will give you bursts of what is basically the best anti-anxiety medication going, which is your oxytocin. So stock up on, you know, some of our communities actually have a joke jar where they will store dad jokes, sorry dads, in the jar, and, you know, you can pick one out and tell a joke and everybody laughs. There are a lot of fun things on YouTube. So when you're out on YouTube looking for your exercise videos, you can also find, you know, laughing babies. I enjoy the animal fails, you know, the mean cats videos. These are all, depending on what makes you laugh, it's a really good resource for going out there and finding some very health promoting laughter and good times. So next slide.
Thank you. So, you know, we've talked about a lot of things: routine, environment, exercise, sleep, the oxytocin. And first of all, you can't look at that picture of the previous slide and not smile when you see that cute little fat baby face. So sometimes pictures of babies and cute babies and puppies and kitties work well too, even for us. There's an actual study that shows a Japanese college did a study that said whenever you have that slump in the time of the day between 3 o'clock, if you remember the old Dr. Pepper commercials where you're feeling kind of tired and wore out for the day, what they found in their research is watching kitten or cat videos actually gave you the same pep in your step as drinking caffeine. So there's something about animals and other things. So, you know, once again, we want to give you permission to do things that are fun and enjoyable. Taking care of someone at home is not easy, or taking care of someone in general is not easy. So we want you to find some ways to make it enjoyable and fun for yourself. But before we go into anything else, we have to talk about something very critical for all of us, and that's nutrition and hydration. It's making sure for yourself and your loved one that you're staying good in both of these areas. First and foremost, hydration is absolutely critical. You need to get into a routine. What winds most seniors up in the hospital most of the times is dehydration, or a UTI, which is a urinary tract infection. So making sure that we're having fluids throughout the day. Now, here's the interesting part. You don't always have to drink water. So finding ways to make that hydration fun, which I know sounds crazy, but maybe you do water and you do ice cubes made with Kool-Aid or Gatorade. So as it melts, it has that flavor to it. Maybe you want to use Pedialyte. With my grandmother, we did a lot of Pedialyte that we froze and made slushies out of because she really liked that cold for some reason. So it's finding ways to make sure that you're doing routine hydration, and don't just take it at face value when you say, Mom, do you want a drink? And she says no. So sometimes the best thing to say is, oh, I made this for you. Try it and see if you like it. And then you can come back and say that again over and over again to get them to drink more liquids. But the goal is we have to be hydrated. Dehydration has a very harmful impact on the body. It can make you more forgetful. It can cause more issues. It can also make you seem like your dementia is getting worse when it's actually severe dehydration. Plus, the brain needs that hydration, and so does the body to be able to function. The other thing too is, have some fun with the hydration too. In our company, we do a lot of mocktails. Those are fake cocktails. Or if you're fine with regular cocktails, do that too. But maybe you're doing Coke floats, root beer floats. Maybe you're doing some kind of fun pina coladas that are fun to do. And sometimes it's just about putting it in certain glasses and the way you present it to someone. Even taking grape juice and putting it in a wine glass makes a very different appearance to a senior when you hand it to them to drink. But, we also want to encourage you that when you're having fun with your mocktails and your cocktails, there are options for seniors and for people. If you have someone who enjoys a glass of wine, but maybe they don't drink or they don't want the alcohol, maybe one of the best things you can do is get the alcohol-free wine. It's called FRE wine. You can find it anywhere online or your local grocery store. Maybe this is a fun way to make smoothies with mom every afternoon. So it becomes, once again, a ritual of something that you do, but it's a healthy ritual for both of you. The other thing we want you to think about is as dementia and Alzheimer's can change someone's visual perception of things, we have to start to change the way that we serve and do our meals. So for example, when you set down a full plate of food that has 30 or 40 things lined up on it, like a big buffet plate, that can be overwhelming to a person with dementia and Alzheimer's. So we want to keep it simple. So sometimes it's easy to start with one item at a time or to do smaller portions on the plate. A lot of our seniors that we take care of, and some of the seniors you may be taking care of at home, if you give them a large portion of a plate, the first thing they say is, oh, I can't eat all this. This is a waste. This is too much food for me. And they lived through a time where, maybe the Great Depression, where they had to ration food. So for them, it triggers things. So giving them smaller portions to start with so it's not so overwhelming. Doing things in phases, starting first with, let's have a piece of hot bread that we just made, and then we have a salad. But keeping good nutrition and keeping it up throughout the day. And sometimes it's changing our expectations. We don't have to sit down for 3 meals every single day for an hour. Sometimes we can space those things out of 6 smaller meals, or we can do finger foods. One of my favorite things for dementia and Alzheimer's residents as the disease progresses is to do a clean apron filled with, chicken strips and French fries and let mom sit on the back patio and eat those and enjoy herself. So let's not make dining such a struggle. Let's make it fun, and let's realize there's no such thing as perfection in any of this. We just want participation and realizing that it's okay to fail, it's okay to make mistakes, and we'll try again. But the other thing I want to mention is during all of these times that we're dealing with right now, and I think as you all know, the mental health in this country is really under a lot of stress for a lot of people. So a lot of us are getting that feeling of what it might be like, unfortunately, to be a dementia resident what day of the week is it, and what am I supposed to do? Some things we can do for ourselves, back to what Diana mentioned with oxytocin, is why don't you just indulge in the food that you love the most on occasion? Like I said, maybe it's sneaking off to the backyard to eat the Snickers ice cream bar. Or maybe you say, you know what, I love Thanksgiving. It's my favorite meal of the year. Just go ahead and make it next Thursday and have a good Thanksgiving dinner with the family. But do those things that make you feel happy, that piece of chocolate cake, that extra Oreo cookie, that, drive through Carl's Jr. milkshake at 10 o'clock at night. It's okay to indulge yourself and to enjoy. And right now it's all about balance. It's all about understanding that you can have great nutrition and give yourself some treats along the way. And I always want to mention food treats are great ways to encourage your loved ones to do things with you and for you, just like my cookie walk. One of my favorite stories years ago, I had a lady I took care of, and the only way we could get her in a shower or bathtub was to promise her a Coors Light. That was it. And this lady who had Alzheimer's dementia was smart enough, by the way, within 2 months of us doing this exchange with her, she had worked it into, she had the Coors Light in the shower because she was not going to wait for us to give it to her anymore. But that made showering fun for her. She looked forward to it. And she got that indulgence with that little bit of oxytocin Diana was talking about earlier, that's that make me feel good hormone. And at the end of the day, don't we want to make ourselves and our loved ones feel good and feel happy? These are some very simple ways to do that. So once again, hydration and nutrition are critical. If you're concerned about weight loss or other nutrition issues with your loved one, I please encourage you to call your physicians and make an appointment, either in person or by telehealth nowadays, which is on your iPad or your FaceTime. But really talk to your doctor about what's going on. If your loved one's not eating well, is it the routine of what we're feeding them? Is it the portions are too big? Do we need to change the way we're doing the meals throughout the day? But don't just give up. Reach out to those professionals that can really help you. Even asking your doctor to get you a consultation to occupational therapy could help give you some ways of making dining easier for your loved one at home. Next slide, Christy. Thank you, ma'am. So we're at 2:41, and we're going to end on what I call my favorite slide and my favorite topic of all times for any colleague who's worked with me. This is what we're going to call as the SOP. Everyone in the world needs an SOP, and that's a sense of purpose. You know, I heard a quote years ago that's always stuck with me, and it's very important, I think, to share at this moment, which there are two important times in your life: the day you're born and the day you realize what your purpose is. Every person needs to feel a sense of purpose. For most of our residents and loved ones we take care of at home, their sense of purpose may have been that family they raised and that taking care of you when you were younger in that family. It could have been their career. It could have been their volunteer work. It could have been being that grandmother and great-grandmother to all your children and grandchildren. But we all have to have a sense of purpose. In our company, we say all the time, it is our job and your job and my job to make sure everyone that lives under my roof has a sense of purpose when they wake up every day. And there is a big difference between feeling loved and having a sense of purpose. Someone can feel loved all day, but if they wake up and have nothing to do, nothing to contribute to, and no way to build their own self-esteem by giving to others and doing things, we automatically cripple their overall emotional health. So it's critical that you have a sense of purpose and your loved one has a sense of purpose. And they're two separate things. Sometimes as a caregiver, we get wrapped up that our sense of purpose is the loved one we're taking care of. And although that is a very most important critical need in your life, it can't be your total sense of purpose. You have to have something beyond that. It's kind of like when your kids are younger, you have to have more than just your children in life. So your sense of purpose right now may be coming and be fulfilled from taking care of mom and dad, but you have to have a sense of purpose in general. The other thing is a sense of purpose for your loved one. What is it they contribute to the household every day to make them feel needed and wanted? So that sense of purpose, believe it or not, when you feel that you have a sense of purpose, it actually lowers your risk of death. It's that critical to your overall health. And there are plenty of studies you can read from Harvard about that. But when you have a sense of purpose, if you've heard any research on the happiness studies or happiness research, one of the key cornerstones to happiness in our lives is to have a sense of purpose and a place in this world. So if someone wakes up every day and they feel like they have nothing to do and no one to help and nothing to contribute to, that's a really lonely world to wake up to every day. So a sense of purpose could be very easy. It could be taking care of the house cat or taking care of the dog or having a betta fish to feed every day. It could be helping you fold the laundry or sweep up after a meal in the house. It could be helping you clip coupons to save money or rake and sweep the front porch and the leaves in the front yard. It could be as simple as having mom sit down and help create a grocery list. It could also be as simple as sitting down sometimes with our seniors, regardless of their disease process, and asking their opinion about something. These are people who've lived a long, long life and have a great legacy to share, and they want someone to ask. They want to be heard. They want to be seen by someone. So giving that sense of purpose is absolutely critical. One of the best ways you can give sense of purpose to your loved one with dementia and Alzheimer's is to get chores and little things for them to do around the house to contribute. But another great sense of purpose that will help you in this journey, which helped me and my family, is starting to really record those histories and life things that you want to pass down to your family. Sitting down with the phone and turning on the video camera and asking grandma, why do we do bundt cake every Christmas? How did this happen here? Or maybe asking grandma, how did all aunts and uncles and you get your name to begin with? but those little moments of history that you can pass down to someone. But sometimes, like Diana said, recording those great stories, that could be a sense of purpose of saying, Mom, I want you to tell everyone the story about how you and Dad met, because I don't want anyone in this family to know that they are loved and that you loved each other. So finding that sense of purpose is critical for any human being, but especially for our dementia and Alzheimer's residents. Make them feel included, make them feel wanted. They can nurture plants, pets, they can help with the grandkids. They can even read a story to someone over FaceTime or Zoom before they go to bed every night. Even volunteering, which sounds crazy, but people, if your mom can cook cookies at home, maybe now's the time to ask her to bake some cookies and you can go drop them off at every neighbor's doorstep along the way when you take your walk, by the way, tomorrow morning with your coffee, because now it's for a sense of purpose. So it goes back to everyone, once again, can feel loved, but sense of purpose is very different. So always ask yourself, what is the SOP? What is my SOP? What is Mom's SOP? What is my sense of purpose that makes me feel when I open my eyes that I am wanted by someone and I have a place in the universe? And I don't know about you guys, but that's a very big order to have to feel to give someone a sense of purpose. But it's absolutely beautiful when you see it come to life. And that is the most important part. And before we end and turn it over to any questions you may have, I just want to say one final thing, and I'll turn it over to Diana too. This is not about perfection in any point in the way of the day. It's about participation. Be forgiving of yourself. It is okay to fail. It is okay to ugly cry in the shower for 20 minutes every morning. It's okay to call your girlfriend or your best friend and say, I can't do this anymore today. This is normal. Do not feel guilt for the feelings you feel sometimes providing care to others. It is complicated. It is hard. And as I said to a group earlier today, I like the word heroes. It's not my favorite word. I'll use the word superheroes. If you've ever taken care of a loved one at home that has dementia or Alzheimer's, it is a very hard job. And it is a job that you do without asking for pay and without asking for fame and glory or your own reality show on TV. So it is important for you to take care of yourself, because I will remind you again, we call you the silent patient because you do not take care of yourself. And the long-term consequences, unfortunately, will not be good for you. So we have to focus on you first and understand that this is a process. It is not perfection, and take it one day at a time. Diana, anything you'd like to say before we open up for questions?
I put a couple of links in the chat for Silver Sneakers for some exercise tips and tools in the Alzheimer's Association. So I just wanted to point that out. But other than that, no, I'll be interested in answering any questions.
All right. Well, I am looking at the chat and I don't see any questions right now. So wait just a second. But we do want to say, thank you for joining us today. I know there are, a lot of things going on in everyone's life right now. And so we appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to join us. If you would like any information or more help, feel free to connect with us by LinkedIn and other ways. But we do thank you for your time today. And I do, so let's see if we've got one thing in the chat.
Shreya says hi.
Yep, Shreya says hi, Shreya. So thank you. So Christy, anything else before we close out?
No, I think that you both did a fantastic job, and so blessed to work with both of you.
Oh, thank you. All right.
Well, it looks like there are a couple questions. If you do have a question, please type it in the question and answer area, and we will answer. So I think Shreya has a question.
She said she used to receive phone calls on Silver Sneakers. Yep, it's a great program to get on. It's very easy to enroll in. We encourage you to go online and go to just type in Silver Sneakers on Google and you'll find the actual website. Someone says we want to invite a fitness trainer to one of our buildings after the COVID-19. Absolutely. Once again, physical fitness is so critical. And someone said they want to say thank you for taking time today, and it was amazing. So I don't see any other questions. Wait, there's a few more coming through.
And yes, we will be able to share this. The recording will be available on our MBK blog at the end of the day tomorrow. So feel free to share directly from our MBK blog.
Well, thank you all so much for your time today. We greatly appreciate it. We're here to help you. And remember, you're a superhero. You got this. You got it. You got it. Just one day at a time. That's all you got to do. Thank you so much for joining us.